Welcome to Department of Distance and Continuing Education, University of Delhi, Masters of Business Administration. Semester 1, Core Course MBA FT 6104, Accounting for Managers. Lesson 7, Responsibility Accounting and Divisional Performance Measurement. 7.1 Learning Objectives. Structures for division are common in large organizations. Measuring the effectiveness of the division and their divisional manager is a crucial aspect of the head office management function in these organizations. Understanding the difference between management performance and divisional performance is crucial in this situation. This lesson discussed financial performance measurements, including how they are used to evaluate performance and their benefits and drawbacks. The objective of the lesson are to understand the idea of responsibility centers in an organization, the benefit and drawbacks of centralization in a big company, describe how to assess the effectiveness of various responsibility centers, to explain the application of ROI and RI and assess their applicability, to describe recently created methods of performance measurements such as EVA and VSC, recognize how to utilize economic value added, residual income, and return on investment. 7.2 Introduction. The majority of significant businesses today are decentralizing as their operations get more intricate and they expand internationally. Geographical and complex operations make management more challenging to control. Therefore, managers of business units are in charge of a variety of choices that the head office takes into account. Numerous operations are carried out by large organizations in various regions. Such an organization may be divided into various units, each of which is in charge of planning and controlling its own operations as well as some decision making. In order to be managed successfully, a division of the corporation is the term used to describe each individual unit. The methods for evaluating and comparing divisional performance are described in this chapter. After studying this chapter, the learner will be able to explain the role of responsibility accounting and divisional performance measurement in value creation, strategy implementation, and monitoring performance to improve strategies. 7.3 Responsibility Accounting. The term responsibility accounting refers to the accounting procedure that documents how well managers of the responsibility centers have carried out their duties. Responsibility accounting is an accounting system that acknowledges numerous responsibility centers and reflects centers' intentions and actions by allocating specific revenue and expenditures to the one with the appropriate responsibility. Therefore, the gathering, summarizing, and reporting of financial data is known as responsibility accounting, and it places specific expenses, revenues, or assets of the company under the accountability of each management. The data relates to the organization's decision-making centers. It is also known as activity accounting or profitability accounting. Responsibility accounting, as defined by SEMA, is a system of accounting that segregates revenue and cost into areas of personal responsibility in order to assess the financial performance attained by persons to whom authority has been assigned. Responsibility accounting can also be referred to as activity accounting. It is used to measure, evaluate, and monitor decentralization process. For the purpose of performance evaluation, responsibility accounting assesses the actual and expected performance, where decision-making authority has been delegated by senior management. Responsibility accounting is appropriate. According to the responsibility accounting, a manager's effectiveness should be assessed based on how successfully they handle the matters that are within their sphere of influence. The logic underpinning responsibility accounting is that a manager's effectiveness should be assessed based on how successfully they handle the matters placed under their direct authority by upper management. Responsibility accounting is a method of accounting in which Costs are identified with persons assigned to their control rather than with the products or functions. The basic idea behind responsibility accounting is that managers should be held responsible for those items, only for those items that the manager can actually control to a significant extent. Responsibility centers. The main focus of responsibility accounting lies on the responsibility center. Responsibility center is a unit or function of an organization headed by a manager having direct responsibility for its performance. It is a subunit of an organization under the control of a manager who is held responsible for activities of that center. In other words, it is a personalized group of cost center under the control of a reasonable individual. Under this approach, the accounting system generates information on the basis of managerial responsibility, allowing that information to be used directly in motivating and controlling each manager's action in charge of responsibility center. It is like a small business to achieve the objectives of a large organization. Based on cost allocation and profit measurement, managerial units are classified into the following: cost center, revenue center, profit center, investment center. Centers of control in responsibility accounting. Cost or expense centers. A cost center, also known as an expenditure center, is a division of an organization where managers are only accountable for the cost, not the. It refers to determining cost for controlled reasons and serves as the foundation for constructing cost in depth. So the main focus of cost center is on cost minimization. According to SEMA, official terminology, a production or service function, activity or item of equipment whose cost may be attributed to cost unit. A place, function, department or division that allows for the estimation of cost and their relation to cost units only for control purpose is referred to as a cost center. The foundation for creating cost records for cost monitoring, budgeting, management is the cost center. Functional department managers may be made accountable for their expenses and considered as cost centers. For example, the maintenance division performance is tracked using variance analysis. Cost centers are prevalent varieties of responsibility centers. In functional organization styles, this degree of decentralization is typical. The main features of the cost center are in charge of cost incomes and control. Cost is used to gauge performance. Performance is assessed by contrasting actual and anticipated costs. The cost center manager is exclusively in charge of controlled expenses. Revenue centers. Revenue centers are areas of responsibility where the manager is only focused on increasing revenue and have no accountability for cost. Actual revenue is contrasted with budgeted revenue to assess performance. Monitoring sales deviations from the budget would be the main metric used to evaluate success. A revenue center, such as sales center, is a center solely responsible for generating income. It is a responsibility center in which a management is only accountable for the monetary outputs or amount of revenue of a center, but no for the price of products or services the center offers. In short, revenue center is in charge of generating income. An individual sales representative or the marketing manager for a particular product line are two examples of revenue centers. Third, profit center. Profit center are areas of responsibility where the management is in charge of both the revenue and expenses associated with the assets assigned to the division. Performance is therefore assessed as the difference between expenses and revenues associated with profit center. So a profit center's primary goal is to make money. Profit center managers should be in charge of both income and expenses, which implies that there should be enough decentralization of power within the organization to allow managers of profit centers to decide on selling prices and actual levels at those prices. It requires the existence of organizational units to which both income and cost may be assigned individually. A profit center is any organizational component to which expenditure and revenues are allocated so that the subunits profitability may be calculated. The main features of the cost center are has the power and the duty to make decisions that impact a division's profitability, accountable for both revenue and the cost. Performance is evaluated by contrast to predicted and actual results. Number 4. Investment centers. Profit centers do not take into account the sum of money needed to invest in order to make a profit. Investment centers acts as a link between profit and the quantity of asset used to generate such profits. Investment centers are responsibility centers where management is in charge of making investment choices about the sale and purchase of assets, as well as the assets that produce the expenses and revenue associated with the center. It is a division within an organization where the divisional manager is given certain latitude about the level of investment made by the division. Profit earned must be compared to capital invested when evaluating center's performance. Return on investment and residual income are two matrices used to assess an investment center financial performance. Advantages and disadvantages of responsibility accounting. To enable the lowest level of management in the organization hierarchy to control revenue and expenses, responsible accounting entails a collection of advantages realized through the use of planning budgets, cost accounting, reporting, and management tools. The following are some of the main benefits of responsibility. Number 1. It offers a system of close control. Responsibility accounting makes use of market specific expertise of divisional managers. It assigns local managers the duty of deciding which trade-off to make. It enhances and regulates the business operations to provide results that are both effective and efficient. Through responsibility accounting, tighter cost and revenue management is made possible. Planning and decision making are aided. So, as a management technique, it fosters cost consciousness among employees. Number 2, delegation of power aids in establishing accountability. Responsibility accounting exhorts management to recognize the organizational structure of the business, determine who is responsible for what, and addresses issues. The management's focus and awareness are improved since they must explain the variances for which they are accountable. Each person is given a certain amount of responsibility and is held responsible for his actions. No one can delegate their own obligation to another. This system fixes accountability on an individual basis. Third, helps in measuring each individual performance. Individual employees feel more efficient since their work and accomplishment are evaluated. An information presentation is made possible through this mechanism. On that foundation, a framework for management performance review system may be built in addition to inspiring managers to behave in business's best interest. Any fully established responsibility accounting system includes exception reporting. By comparing the accomplishments between the intended objectives and the actual outcomes, it helps managers to focus on pressing problems that require their attention. Fourth, provide up-to-date information. Through responsibility accounting, it is possible to get current and pertinent data that may be utilized to forecast future expenses and or revenues and establish benchmarks for departmental budgets. It simplifies the form of report and offers tips for timely reporting. Responsibility accounting directs management in structuring and planning the company's future income and expenses. The best method is to define and express personal and corporate goals. It measures performance at the divisional level and forces management to create reasonable budgets and strategies. Fifth, aids in training of aspiring managers. Managers feel themselves vital members of the organization when accountability is outlined for each area. It enhances employees' motivation and fosters an entrepreneurial spirit. It encourages managers to work hard in the areas they are in charge of and promotes strong employee motivational factor. Disadvantage of responsibility accounting. The primary tenet of the responsibility accounting concept is that managing a sizable, diverse business may be effectively managed by segmenting a corporation into responsibility centers. However, responsibility accounting has several issues like it is difficult to introduce. It confuses divisions results with management performance and overemphasis on short-term results. Following are some of the main drawbacks of responsibility accounting. Number one, in responsibility accounting, good governance is challenging to organize, as separate departmental pursuits may lead to interdepartmental rivalry and it may be prejudicial to the interest of the enterprise as a whole. Managers may act in the best interest of their own but not in the best interest of the enterprise. So instead of enhancing organizational performance, more attention is paid to boosting divisional performance. Number two, for responsibility accounting to be effective, a proper classification between controllable and non-controllable costs is a prime requisite. But practical difficulties arise while doing so on account of complex nature and variety of costs. Number three, responsibility accounting cannot be used exclusively as a management control tool. It just focuses management attention on performance areas that need more inquiry. Number four, in case of responsibility accounting, creating an organization chart that clearly shows responsibility hierarchies and exercising power is a challenging endeavor. The accounting reports may be overloaded with all available information and there is always a risk that errors made by the divisional managers that senior management may be able to prevent. 7.4, Divisional Performance Measurement. Performance measurement is a crucial tool that an organization uses to assess the success of goals and objectives. Utilizing matrices deemed acceptable for this type of review, an evaluation is carried out to determine whether goals have been met. When evaluating performance, one usually compares it to a standard such as past accomplishment and expectation or the accomplishment of rivals. It is common practice to divide an organization into segments or divisions, which are important business units. It assigns divisional managers with duty and authority. This aids in enhancing information, availability, and timeliness, contribute to the long-term strategic planning of the entire business, make decisions locally, boost the dedication and inspiration of managers in charge of each unit. An entity's performance measurement system often matches its organization structure. In other words, each department, group, division recognizes its contribution to the organization's overarching aim and is assessed based on this contribution. An entity adopts an organization structure to assist, guide, and manage its resources
In order to accomplish its objective, it aids in defining a division scope of power and duty. The performance of the accountable manager is evaluated based on how well the division as a whole contributes to the entity's objective. The controllable and non-controllable costs and revenue should be clearly identified for analyzing divisional performance. A division performance report is created with the objective to evaluate each division's performance and advise on how to price goods and services, and to determine how much is being invested in each division. This helps in analyzing the general efficacy and efficiency of each division, measuring divisional performance. Finding out how well each section of the organization is performing is the main goal of a responsibility accounting. The managers of the organization's various cost centers are in charge of generating an appropriate profit, which is determined by the profits center division or the rate of return on sales. The divisional performance is a measurement of the revenue generated by a certain division. The manager of an investment center is in charge of generating a rate of return on the assets that the division has invested in. Different matrices such as profit of turnover, sales per employee, sales growth, among others, are used to assess divisional success. The most often used standards are return on investment, residual income, economic value added, balance scorecard. Traditional measures. Return on investment. Most businesses concentrate on a division's return on investment ROI rather than just the quantity of its earning in absolute terms. Divisional profit is expressed as a percentage of the assets used in the division by ROI. Total divisional assets, assets under the divisional manager's management, or net assets can all be used to characterize assets employed. Since ROI is widely used metric, it is perfect for comparing business divisions of comparable size and industry. According to Kohler, ROI is an overall ultimate ratio measure of the profits achieved by a firm through its basic operations. It is considered a useful indicator of management's general effectiveness and efficiency. Return on investment is calculated as return on investment is equal to divisional income upon divisional investment, or return on investment is equal to profit upon capital employed into 100, or profit upon sales into sales upon capital employed. For example, let's say an entrepreneur sets up a company selling products through department shop and discount outlet that it has established for its operational sales. Department shop in the second column, discount outlet in the third column. Divisional profit 28,000, 40,000. Divisional investment 1,50,000, 2 lakh. From the above data, the ROIs of both businesses will be calculated as ROI department shop is equal to divisional profit divided by divisional investment into 100. That is 28,000 divided by 1,50,000 into 100 is equal to 18.67%. ROI discount outlet divisional profit divided by divisional investment into 100, that is 40,000 divided by 2 lakh into 100 is equal to 20%. The ROI is different for both the divisions. That implies that division with higher ROI is more successful. The discount outlet ROI 20% is higher than the department shop ROI 18.67%. If all other variables remain the same, any of the following acts will boost ROI.
a rise in sales volume or price, a fall in operating expenses, a drop in divisional investment. The benefits of return on investments are as follows. It provides a better gauge of divisional profitability by connecting net income to investments made in the division. Other ratios that are helpful for analytical reasons can be derived from it. Because it is based on financial accounting measurement, it is simple to grasp. It is acceptable for use in inter-firm comparisons as long as the businesses whose results are being contrasted are similar in size and belong to same sector. Over many years, it has been recognized and acknowledged that using ROI to assess a division manager's performance has limits and can lead to dysfunctional behaviors. The limitations of return on investments are as follows. It is challenging to locate satisfactory definitions of profit and investments. PBIT, PAIT, control profit, profit after deduction of all assigned fixed expenses, and other ideas fall under the umbrella of profit. In a similar vein, the phrase investment can refer to a variety of concepts including gross book value, net book value, NBV, historical cost of asset HCA, current cost of assets CCA, and assets including or excluding intangible assets IA. A divisional manager may be influenced by ROI to only choose investments with high rates of return, that is, rates that are in line with or higher than his goal ROI. Investments that might increase enterprise value but decreasing segment ROI may be denied. Some sectors may use the available cash to sponsor initiatives that boost their return on investment at the expense of organization as a whole. In order to compare the ROI of various segments, it is essential that they employ comparable accounting rules and procedure for the valuation of stocks, fixed assets, apportionment of overhead, handling of R&D expenses, etc. Residual income. Operating profit less an interest charge based on the assets used and held by the division is known as residual income. In other words, the profits that remain after deducting the cost of capital on investment is known as residual income. It is the difference between net income and cost of capital. Profit for the business is any income received beyond the cost of capital. The residual income may be calculated as residual income is equal to profit minus capital charge into investment center asset. Residual income is defined as controllable contribution less a cost of capital charge on the investment that the divisional manager can control for the purposes of measuring the performance of divisional managers. Each division will be charged capital cost at the same rate that the company as a whole is subject to. The business will do better the more income it generates over its cost of capital. Managers wanted an absolute metric such as residual income to get beyond the limits of return on investment measurements. The residual income strategy can be utilized to get around some of the problematic effects of the ROI. There is higher likelihood that managers will be encouraged to act in company's best interest as well as their own if residual income is utilized to gauge the managerial performance of investment centers. Let us suppose the information relating to operation of division A of a manufacturing concern is given. Sales 25,000 at the rate of rupees 4 each is equal to 1 lakh, less variable cost at the rate rupees 3 per unit is 75,000, contribution 25,000, less fixed cost 5,000.
divisional profit would be 20,000. The amount of divisional investment is rupees 1 lakh. Find out the residual income if the cost of capital is 10%. The residual income may be calculated as residual income is equal to divisional profit minus cost of capital into divisional investment is equal to 20,000 minus zero point 0.1 into 1 lakh is equal to 20,000 minus 10,000 is equal to rupees 10,000. So the residual income of division A is rupees 10,000. The amount that a division's profit exceeds its cost of capital is shown by residual income. The benefits of the residual income metric are as follows. Number one, accounting for each division's cost of capital guarantees that decisions made by various divisions are in line with the objectives of the firm as a whole. Number two, by embracing possibilities that provides returns beyond the cost of capital, it enhances business development and boosts stockholders' value. Number three, it prevents making bad choices since investments are not turned down only because they reduce the divisional manager's ROI. However, residual income measure is not free from limitations. Similar to ROI, it might be challenging to define divisional profit and divisional investment in a way that is suitable. It could be challenging to determine what divisional level issues are under your control and what are not. Also, it could be challenging to determine the precise cost of capital. Additionally, a choice must be made on whether to utilize the division's cost of control or the company's cost of control. The former improves the alignment of divisional goals and the latter shows how risky each division is. It is challenging to compare a division's performance to that of other divisions or firms of a different size, since residual income has the drawbacks of being an absolute metric. For instance, a big division is more likely than a small division to provide a higher residual revenue. For each division, targeted or budgeted residual income levels that are in line with the asset size and market circumstances should be established in order to make up for this deficit. 7.4.2 Modern measures as indicators of divisional success, return on investment and residual income have been under criticism for years. Many consulting companies and academics suggested modifying the conventional metrics such as residual income in order to address the objections. Economic value added. The Stern Stewart consulting firm based in the USA invented the concept known as economic value added. The acronym EVATM has been listed as their trademark. They developed a slightly different measure of residual income and marketed the measure as economic value added. The concept of residual income is the foundation of economic value added. Similar to residual income, economic value added charges an investment center or division for cost of its working capital and long-term assets investment. Instead of depending on the financial accounting rules within the historical cost accounting, the Stern-Stewart technique applies accounting modifications to divisional earnings to arrive at a result that reflects economic profits. It is only when operational revenue after taxes is greater than the cost of capital investment does economic value emerge. Economic value added is equal to after tax operating income minus weighted average cost of capital into total capital employed. Balance scorecard. Financial indicators like contribution margin, profit, ROI, RI have the drawback of being backward looking, which makes them problematic for performance evaluation. In other words, they pay more attention to previous financial results than to what management are doing to increase future shareholder value. The balanced scorecard is a method created by consultant David Norton and Harvard professor Robert Kaplan that tackles this constraint. Kaplan and Norton comment on balanced scorecard as follows. The balanced scorecard provides managers with the instrumentation they need to navigate to future competitive success. Today, organizations are competing in complex environments so that an accurate understanding of their goals and the methods for attaining those goals is vital. The balanced scorecard translates an organization's mission and strategy into a comprehensive set of performance measures that provides the framework for a strategic measurement and management system. The balanced scorecard retains an emphasis on achieving financial objectives, but also include the performance drivers of these financial objectives. The scorecard measures organizational performance across four balanced perspectives: financial, customer, internal business process, learning and growth. The BSC enables companies to track financial results while simultaneously monitoring progress in building the capabilities and acquiring the intangible assets they need for future growth. The balance scorecard is a tool used by the businesses to monitor their performance in relation to their primary and secondary goals. In this sense, the planning and strategy of the business, which specifies the relationships it must forge with its workers, suppliers, and the community to succeed with its target consumers, determines the emphasis and scope of the balanced scorecard. Dimensions of balanced scorecard: a collection of performance goals and outcomes related to four performance dimensions: financial, customer, internal process, and innovation make up the balanced scorecard. A management strategy that concentrates on accomplishing corporate goals is the balanced scorecard. It acknowledges that businesses have obligations to a variety of stakeholder groups, including consumers, suppliers, employees, and community members. The balanced scorecard displays how well a company is doing at reaching its goals in relation to its stakeholders. Sometimes the desires of various stakeholders might vary. Employees, for instance, rely on an organization for their employment. Investors depend on a company to protect their capital. These conflicting desires must be balanced by the organization. As a result, the purpose of a balanced scorecard is to assess how effectively a company is performing in light of divergent stakeholders' interests. According to Hansen and Mohan, the balanced scorecard is a strategic based responsibility accounting system that translates an organization's mission and strategy into operational goals and matrices for four distinct perspectives: the infrastructure, learning and growth, the customer, the process, and the financial perspective. So, customers, internal business, learning and innovation, and finance are the four separate views that make up the core framework that Kaplan and Norton developed. A. Customer perspective: what customers experience and perceive. Companies determine the market and customer segments in which they compete, as well as the ways in which they add value to these markets and consumers during this stage. Customers have a significant role in determining a company's performance. Thus, it is important to understand how the consumer feels about the product. Companies place a great deal of significance on the value they provide to customers. Managers can translate their overarching purpose statement for providing excellent customer service into specific stages using the balanced scorecard. Customers are concerned with time, performance, quality, and service. The amount of time needed by the business to meet customer demands is measured by lead time. Customers' perceptions of the goods or services they will offer are put to the test for quality. For customers, performance and service are valuable. With the use of BSC, organizations may define and decipher expectations in terms of time, cost, efficiency, and product. Financial perspective, the perspective of shareholders. Financial performance indicators show if a company's execution of its strategy is generating revenue and profits. Metrics under the financial perspective show if the creation and execution of business strategy boosts the bottom line. Measures like operating income, ROI, ROE, and market share will come from the financial perspective. Revenue and profit are obvious objectives that any firm would include in this perspective. Many people have attacked financial efforts for being valueless and have a retrograde direction. Many detractors take it a step further and claim that financial controls have no bearing on customer satisfaction. But these claims are frequently untrue because a well planned financial control procedure can enhance a company's overall quality management program. Internal business, the key processes that the company used to meet and exceed customer and shareholders' requirements. Companies determine at this stage the procedures and actions required to accomplish the goals identified at the stage of financial and consumer perspectives. By reevaluating the value chain and making the required adjustments to the current operations, these goals may be accomplished. Companies must adapt in order to satisfy client expectations. Yet, doing so requires them to improvise their internal operations. Managers must prioritize crucial internal processes if they want to live up to customers' expectations. The importance of addressing cycle time, performance, expertise, and labor efficiency. The company's vision, mission, and objectives should be understood by all employees from the top to bottom so that they may give their all and have a clear understanding of the decisions, actions, and changes that need to be made in order to achieve the company's objectives. A significant part in identifying the error in an organization is played by the information systems. When a problem arises in BSC, it is simple to track it down, pinpoint the issue, and respond right away. D. Innovation and learning. How the company foster ongoing change and continuous improvement. The learning and growth viewpoint help businesses identify the initiatives and support system needed to foster long-term success and meet the goals outlined in the first three views. Organizations are adapting to match the global standards as the world is changing quickly. The others will fail to meet the high standards and fall behind. Those who keep up with the pace improve themselves and improvise themselves. The worth of a corporation is correlated with its capacity for innovation, self-improvement, and learning. In other words, the company must boost operational effectiveness, introduce new goods, and improvise to gain market share before it can increase revenue and boost shareholder value. Characteristics of good balanced scorecards. For balanced scorecards to be effective and helpful, they should exhibit the traits listed below. By converting the strategy into a logical and connected setup of comprehensible and quantifiable Operational objectives. Balanced scorecard should aid in conveying the plan developed to all members of a business. Managers and staff then act in accordance with the scorecard to carry out the firm's plan. It is recommended to create scorecards at the division and departmental level in order to facilitate choices and actions that are in compliance with scorecards. The balanced scorecard places a lot of focus on financial goals and matrices in profit-driven organizations. Managers occasionally place too much emphasis on innovation, quality, and customer pleasure, even though these factors may not directly result in financial gains. In order to achieve and enhance future financial success, a strong balanced scorecard takes non-financial criteria into account. Many non-financial performance variables act as leading indications of future financial performance when they are correctly connected in balanced scorecards. In order to showcase a company's strategy, balanced scorecard should emphasize cause and effect relationships. Let's say ABC Limited wants to produce at a low cost and expand quickly. The balanced scorecards ought to provide goals and matrices from a learning and growth viewpoint, since this might enhance internal company operations. These would then translate into increased level of client satisfaction, market share, operating revenue, and shareholder health. Number 4. The scorecard draws attention to poor trade-offs that managers could make if they don't take operational and financial factors into account simultaneously. For instance, a business where innovation is important might improve its short-term financial performance by cutting back on research and development. A strong balanced scorecard would indicate that the drop in research and development output and spending, a leading predictor of that performance, may indicate that short-term financial performance was obtained at the expense of future financial performance. A company can better express its vision and strategy and put it into action with the aid of a balanced scorecard. A company uses it to promote efficient and reliable communication, since everyone speaks the same matrix language, drive attention to important requirements, regularly facilitate evaluations, and guarantee organizational alignment. The good thing about the balanced scorecard is that businesses can interact with it in accordance with the market's nature and culture, and add additional insight and KPI as they see fit. For this reason, businesses are currently experimenting with various improvements to the scorecard. The scorecard has drawn a lot of criticism, but it remains a popular performance management tool. Illustration 1. XYZ Limited company has several divisions. Of these 4 divisions are Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. Below are the data for these divisions. Sales income investment for Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn are given in the second, third, and fourth and fifth column respectively. Sales 5 lakh, 6 lakh, 7 lakh, 8 lakh. Income 50,000, 1 lakh, 1 lakh 50, 2 lakh. Investment 5 lakh, 5 lakh, 5 lakh, 5 lakh. You are required to calculate ROI of the 4 divisions and rank these divisions on the basis of their performance. Solution. From the above data, the ROI will be calculated as ROI is equal to divisional profit divided by divisional investment into 100. Venus 50,000 divided by 5 lakh into 100 is equal to 10%. Mars 1 lakh divided by 5 lakh into 100 is equal to 20%. Jupiter 1 lakh 50 divided by 5 lakh into 100 is equal to 30%. Saturn 2 lakh divided by 5 lakh into 100 is equal to 40%. So ranks for Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn are 4, 3, 2, 1 respectively. The information relating to Xerox Limited company is given.
sales 80,000 unit at the rate of 5 rupees each, 4 lakh, less variable cost at the rate of 3 per unit, 2 lakh 40,000, contribution is equal to 1 lakh 60,000, less fixed cost 50,000, divisional profit 1 lakh 10,000. The amount of divisional investment is rupees 5 lakh. If the cost of capital is 10%, you are required to calculate return on investment, residual income, comment on the results of 1 and 2. Solution. ROI is equal to division profit divided by divisional investment into 100. ROI is equal to 1 lakh 10,000 divided by 5 lakh into 100 is equal to 22%. Residual income is equal to divisional profit minus cost of capital into divisional investment is equal to 1 lakh 10,000 minus 10% into 5 lakh is equal to 1 lakh 10,000 minus 50,000 is equal to 60,000 rupees. The performance of the division is encouraging. ROI is higher than the necessary rate of return and the residual income is also in the positive. Illustration 3. For an investment of rupees 10 lakh, the division of a business makes a profit of rupees 4 lakh. There is an opportunity to make an additional investment of rupees 3 lakh 50,000 which yields a rupees 1 lakh yearly return. If the company requires a minimum return of 12% on its investment, calculate residual income and comment. Solution. First of all, we need to calculate residual income from the existing investment as well as additional investment. And formula to calculate residual income is equal to divisional profit minus cost of capital into divisional investment. Residual income before the additional investment is equal to rupees 4 lakh minus 12% of 10 lakh. 4 lakh minus 1 lakh 20,000 is equal to 2 lakh 80,000. Residual income from additional investment is equal to rupees 1 lakh minus 12% of 3 lakh 50,000 is equal to rupees 1 lakh minus 42,000 is equal to 58,000 rupees. An investment of rupees 13 lakh 50,000 yields a total residual income of rupees 3 lakh 38,000. The increased investment boosts residual revenue and raises the performance indicator. 7.5 Summary. One of the greatest cost management methods used in large organizations in the event of decentralization or divisionalization to lessen the burden of controlling the business is responsibility accounting. Responsibility centers are distinct areas inside a corporation where specific managers have agreed to take responsibility and authority. Responsibility centers specify the resources and tasks that each manager is in charge of. To assess the effectiveness of each responsibility centers, managers create a responsibility report. In this report, individual deviations are measured and analyzed in relation to responsibility centers' budgeted and actual performance. In order to prevent managers from being held accountable for actions they have no control over, responsibility reports should only contain expenses that can be controlled. Thanks for listening the lesson.